The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Robert Tan. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares rose on Tuesday after U.S. stocks indexes drifted closer to records amid easing trade tensions. Beijing and Washington dialed back trade friction as the U.S. extended exemptions for tariffs on some Chinese goods, which includes solar manufacturing equipment that U.S. industries rely on for their own production. The U.S. Trade Representative extended those exemptions by 3 months through August 31 from May 31. Despite this, China slammed the U.S. over moves it alleged harmed Chinese interests, including issuing AI chip export control guidelines, stopping the sale of chip design software to China, and planning to revoke Chinese student visas. Japan's Nikkei 225 inched up by nearly 0.1%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index led gains with a 1.13% rise. South Korea's Kospi is flat with a slight uptick. Meanwhile, China's Shanghai Composite rose 0.48%, and Australia's ASX 200 advanced 0.52%. Singapore's Straits Times Index was meanwhile flat with a downward bias. In the currency markets, the US dollar strengthened against the Japanese yen, rising 0.18% and gained 0.17% versus the Thai baht. It also advanced 0.16% against the Singapore dollar. In contrast, the greenback is flat with a downward bias against the Hong Kong dollar and dropped 0.10% versus the South Korean won. The Australian dollar weakened against the US dollar, with the pair slipping 0.43%. Commodity and cryptocurrency markets saw mixed movements. Gold prices edged down by 0.29%. In the energy market, West Texas Intermediate crude oil rose 0.46%. Brent crude gained 0.36%, while Dubai crude slightly declined by 0.16%. Meanwhile, cryptocurrencies were broadly higher, with Bitcoin climbing 0.89% and Ethereum surging more than 2%. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, is expected to cut the interest rates by 25 basis points each this month and in August. Deutsche Bank research explains that this as inflation settles below the 2 to 4% target this year. The bank notes that the risk of inflation breaching the central bank's 2 to 4% target remains limited. Headline inflation slowed to 1.4% in April from 1.8% in March. A Business World poll also showed that the inflation will further decelerate to 1.3% in May. The Philippine trade and current account deficits may widen this year. Bank of America, or BOFA Global Research, explains that this may be caused by a rebound in domestic consumption amid a surge in imports. This can lead to an increase in foreign debt and weaken the peso if it persists for too long. The bank also expects that the current account deficit to settle at 4% of economic output in 2025. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority, chaired by Trade and Industry Secretary Cristina Roque, has approved the Palawan Mega Ecozone. The country's biggest eco-industrial hub will rise in 28,000 hectares of the Bureau of Corrections idle lands in Ihiwahig, with the first 4,000 hectares of the penal colony ready for the Phase 1 transformation into PEZA. The project aims to position Palawan as a strategic hub for BIM-Iaga trade and sustainable export growth. A new law signed by President Bongbong Marcos requires businesses and government offices engaged in agriculture to hire licensed agriculturists. Corporate farms, golf courses, agri-tourism spots, and local government units must now meet staffing requirements set by the Philippine Agriculturists Act, or RA 12215. For those in government, minimum pay is at least salary grade 13. The law also forms the Professional Regulatory Board of Agriculture and mandates a licensure exam for agriculture graduates to professionalize the sector. Violators face fines of at least 100,000 pesos or jail time when the law takes effect 15 days after publication in the official gazette. Bangko Sentral's Polymer Banknote Series bagged top honors in Bangkok, named Best New Banknote Series by the International Association of Currency Affairs, or IACA. The award cites the note's cutting-edge security, striking design, and celebration of local biodiversity. The latest honor marks another win for the BSP's cleaner, tougher, and smarter currency shift. The 1,000 peso polymer bill was best new banknote for 2023 of High Security Printing Asia and Banknote of the Year for 2022 of the International Banknote Society. In 2023, IACA also awarded the BSP for Best New Currency Public Engagement Program for the communication campaign for the 1,000 peso polymer bill. We're taking a short break. The biggest business stories from around the country are up next. You're watching Business Brief. The Asian Development Bank is calling for massive investments to meet Asia's clean energy goals. With the Philippines facing a $16 billion grid upgrade bill, what's at stake? Here's Sujin Kim for more details. Go ahead, Sujin.
Yes, Robert. The Asian Development Bank, hosting the Asia Clean Energy Forum this week, estimates that the region needs over $1.3 trillion in investments to support energy transition goals, including grid modernization, cross-border transmission, storage systems, and clean power generation. For the Philippines to keep pace, at least $16 billion in grid investments will be required, with $11 billion allocated to domestic transmission upgrades under the Philippine Energy Plan. Additional spending is needed for energy storage, converter systems, and grid expansion to support renewable integration. Failure to act may exacerbate existing bottlenecks, from unreliable supply and high power costs to lost opportunities in attracting investments in semiconductors, data centers, and advanced manufacturing. The ADB and World Bank have been mandated to coordinate regional power grid financing, with ADB committing up to $10 billion in support. Technical studies, market design, and de-risking mechanisms for private investors are now underway. The ASEAN region, home to over 680 million people and one of the fastest growing economies in the world, is grappling with the surging demand for electricity, fueled by rapid industrialization and the explosive growth of energy-intensive data centers and AI applications. Despite this rising demand, 80% of the region's energy mix still comes from fossil fuels, exposing ASEAN to energy security risks and climate vulnerabilities. To address this, governments and multilateral lenders are rallying across the ASEAN power grid, a flagship initiative that aims to create a unified cross-border electricity market by 2045. And those are the latest updates from Mandaluyong City. To you, Robert.
Thank you for that report, Sujin Kim. Meanwhile, Harvard University is urging a federal judge to unfreeze $2.5 billion in research funds suspended by the Trump administration. The Ivy League school claims the freeze, impacting hundreds of projects from cancer research to national security, is retaliation for resisting political pressure. Trump accuses institutions of higher learning, the country's oldest and wealthiest among them, of promoting anti-Semitism and, quote, woke, unquote, ideology. A court hearing is set for July 21 on Harvard's motion for summary judgment. AI systems will start to help businesses to solve complex problems
kind of very non-trivial. Right now, it's very much in the category of, okay, if you've got some like repetitive cognitive work, we can automate it at a kind of a low level on a short time horizon. And as that expands to longer time horizons and higher levels, you know, at some point you get an AI scientist, an AI agent that can go discover new science. And that will be kind of a significant moment in the world.
Mohammed Sabri Soliman, the suspect in the firebomb attacks in Colorado, appeared in court on Monday. The court scheduled a date for the formal filing of charges on Thursday, June 5th. The judge also left Soliman's bond unchanged at $10 million. Soliman is the main suspect in an attack on a pro-Israeli rally in Colorado that injured 8 people. He is being held on several charges, including assault and the use of explosives.
Mr. Soliman, good afternoon. This is the first advisement, and I have just a couple of matters that I need to cover with you. I'm going to ask many of the questions that I have to your counsel, but I need to first address you directly and make sure that you have received and that you understand the protection order that the court just issued. It keeps you from contacting any of the people who are named as the victims in the alleged offense. Did you receive the protection order? Do you understand it?
In Argentina, Garahan Hospital residents and supporters hold a candlelight demonstration in Buenos Aires to demand higher wages. The healthcare professionals have been confronting the government for 2 weeks to demand a concrete proposal to increase their salary. They cite long working hours and insufficient pay as their reasons. Argentine Health Minister Mario Lugones recently announced a raise in the income for residents who earn less than $677 in the first year of the training period to more than $1,000 starting July. China's logistics industry showed steady growth and strong resilience in the first 4 months of this year, despite external economic pressures. That's according to the data released Tuesday by the China Federation of Logistics and Purchasing. China's total social logistics was worth $16 trillion in January to April period, marking a year-on-year increase of 5.6%. Policies aimed at boosting domestic demand, such as trade-in programs for new consumer goods and emerging sectors like live stream e-commerce, contributed to the growth. Online retail performed especially well, with physical goods sold online increasing 5.8% year-on-year, up 1 percentage points from the first quarter. We're taking a short break. Business Brief will be right back. Immigration operatives arrest 39 Chinese nationals at a major telecom office in BGC. The Immigration Bureau says the foreigners failed to present valid travel documents and held work visas backed by a different company. That constitutes a breach of their visa conditions. The BI said the raid was conducted after weeks of surveillance and intelligence gathering. Last month, columnist Ramon Tulfo alleged Dito Telecommunity, owned by Bilyonaryo Dennis Uy, employs 400 Chinese nationals without proper working visas. And a new chapter begins for the Aurora restaurant. After 2 years of serving delights in Makati, the dining concept expands to the Podium Mall in Ortigas Center with Bistro Aurora. The new resto offers Aurora's signature Asian-inspired dishes, as well as new flavors exclusive to the Ortigas menu. The Aurora restaurant is owned by Divina Law founder, attorney Nilo Divina. It was named Tatler Dining's best new restaurant last year. Philippine shares bounced back to the 6,400 level for the second straight day of the week. The PSE index ended higher by 0.9% to close at 6412, finishing the day as the third best performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only financials ended in the red, with property rising the most at nearly 2%. Advancers narrowly outpaced decliners 103 to 102. Total value turnover reached nearly 6 billion pesos. Among the day's most active stocks, only BDO Unibank ended in the red after falling by more than 2%. Bloomberry Resorts, on the other hand, rose the most at more than 12%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 55.67 against the greenback, strengthening from previous close of 55.70. And that's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Robert Tan. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business. Only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.